Gardner-Webb head coach Cris Reisert. The team is going to take on nationally ranked FCS foe Western Carolina. That is on Saturday evening, 6 Eastern. ESPN Plus will have the coach. Just let's get some thoughts on your team heading to this first game of the season.
Yeah, eager. We're excited. Been a great offseason. I think we spoke about it before, but just been an offseason really of Kaizen, right? And trying to get better every single day and do hard things together as a football team, grow through that shared adversity. And I think we've done that. So we're eager. We're ready to go. Got to have a great week of practice, starting with a great Tuesday. But I think it's a confident group, and it's a group that genuinely enjoys being around each other and loves each other. And which makes my job a lot more fun and joyful to come to work.
Sometimes teams start off the season with a lower level opponent or an FBS opponent. You're going to get an FCS opponent who has a number in front of their team. Just talk about that and starting with a really good team out of the gate.
Yeah, no, Western Carolina is a really good football team. Ton coming back. Their quarterback's a preseason All-American. Ton coming back on defense, guys that are all Southern Conference on both sides of the ball. Multiple guys, and so it's a talented group. It's a well-coached group. It's a group that had a really good season last year, and I think is hungry for more. And so we certainly understand the gravity of our opponent. And but at the same time, what a cool opportunity in week one to learn about ourselves. We're going to get a pretty good measuring stick out the gate, and we'll get a good gauge on where we're at as a football team. And if it's a good gauge, then we'll keep getting better. If it's a bad gauge, we'll keep getting better. But we're certainly looking at it as a unique opportunity in week one to see where we stack up in 25.
You start preseason camp. Let's say you have 10 things you want to make sure the team knows. I'm just making a number up. Do you think your team got to all the things they need to learn? Do they get farther than they need to learn? I know there's always growing, but how do you feel like heading into the first game week as far as the stuff you wanted to put into place?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. We're ready. I think this year we're a lot more maybe grounded in what we do and why we do it. Our guys understand just the flow, and they understand scheme, a lot of the reason behind, right, the things that we're doing, and that makes a big difference. And when you have that, then situationally, it's so much easier to adjust and make sure you're prepared for X, Y, and Z. But we're buttoned up, we're prepared. Every situation, you can think of, we've probably worked and taken care of. And football is a wild game, so I'm sure there's a couple we hadn't thought of. But if we find them, we'll make sure to add them for next year. But we're ready, we're prepared. Not a doubt in my mind. We're in a good spot.
And what do you think? We talked a lot of them. If there is a side or a phase of the game, what do you think the most important matchup against them is for your team this week? Where do you see the biggest opportunity for success?
Yeah, week ones are week ones, and it's going to be the same in 25 as it is in 95. You know what I mean? It's you got to tackle, right? You got to win the penalty battle, and you got to take care of the football, and you got to take it away. And I know that's not kind of unique to Western, but it's just unique to a week one. You have to be mindful that so much of what happens in week one is about how you manage the emotions and how you manage the flow of the game. I think on the Western side of things, the quarterback's dynamic as heck. They do some really unique things offensively that you have to be prepared for with motions, moves, and shifts and trades. And defensively, they're diverse in a lot of different ways. And so you certainly have to prepare for the variety of stuff you're going to get from Western. But football's not that complicated. It really boils down to tackling. It boils down to taking care of it. And it boils down to making sure you play a clean football game regarding penalties.
I wasn't looking at the waiting room. I see Jacob is with us. Anybody has questions, let me know. You can let me know in the chat or raise your hand and you can ask a question. Sorry, I wasn't looking up there. Jacob, you got something for Coach? If so, you're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Got you now.
All right. I had a little bit of technical difficulty logging in, but Coach, when we spoke in the preseason press conference, you said you were still looking at decisions whether who was going to be your number one quarterback. Have you made a decision about that, or are you still going to split the duties under center?
We're still ongoing. That's an ongoing battle that we're still working through, and we expect we expect both to play, and so we're looking forward to seeing how that battle plays out, on Saturday.
This rivalry is a regional rivalry. I'm not sure if you already spoke about it, but it's flipped 6-5 in 11 games in the Division I era. I know this is your first one as a coach at Gardner-Webb. So what are you looking forward to about the most in this rivalry game?
Well, I've heard it's a really unique atmosphere, so we're looking forward to that, and I've not been to Colorweed, not been to Western Carolina, but I've heard it's a good setup and will be a nice atmosphere. And so our guys are excited for that. I think anytime you get a chance to play in front of a good crowd of people where, football is important, I think that matters. And so we're looking forward to that. And certainly, Jacob, to your point, I think anytime you can play a regional rivalry game, there's some bragging rights on the line from a recruiting perspective, and that makes a great deal too. You've got a ton of local folks that either went to Gardner-Webb or went to Western Carolina, and so you got a lot of people that have a lot riding on this game, and we'll be ready to make sure we take care of the Gardner-Webb faithful.
And one last thing from me, the polls came out just a few days ago, and they're ranked, so it's going to be a challenge. What's it like starting off the season against a ranked FCS team, and do your guys have confidence they can go in there and pull up that upset?
Yeah, like I was saying to Kyle, Jacob, I think we see it as a great opportunity. It's a great measuring stick right out of the gate, right? Sometimes you gotta wait till week 3, 4, or 5 until you play a really high level quality opponent, and then you kind of get a gauge on, all right, yeah, we are pretty good, or hey, I don't know, maybe we're not where we need to be. And so we're gonna know, and you're gonna get a really good sense of where you're at as a football team right out of the gate. And yeah, our guys are ready, and they understand, like I said to Kyle, the gravity of the opponent. We know it's a good football team, and we know that when you play good football teams, you got to make sure that you bring your A game, and they'll have it. And so it'll be a fun night on Saturday.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jacob.
Coach, sometimes I hear this is nothing against Western Carolina. People say polls shouldn't come out to like week 5 or 6. Now that you don't know anything about, just I don't know your thoughts on like now it's maybe harder than ever to tell anything about a team heading into a new year.
It's a different world with the portal, right? You really, we think we have an idea of Western Carolina, right? But there could be a guy that we don't know that transferred in from we don't know where, and now all of a sudden week 1 you're having to kind of prepare for that, or you're having to deal with that. And so that's a little bit of the volatility in the early week games, especially at the FCS level. And so I think that polls start to matter, a lot more as the year goes on. But I think in Western's case, they've got so much coming back that they're an easy top 25 team, and so there's some of that kind of stand out. I think they're one of those groups, and certainly, but I think come week 8 and 9 and 10, that's when those polls really start to carry a little bit more gravity in a big way.
Well, Coach, appreciate your time this morning. Just best of luck to you and your team, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks so much.